think it was last year, on this very question of who uses dating apps and sort of their personality traits and so on. And they did indeed find, and these were just university students, which, you know, take it for what it's worth, but the people who were using the dating apps, which is about 1/3 of the students in the sample pool, they were sort of more likely to be interested in short-term sexual conquest, not really surprised, more interested and more likely to use drugs and alcohol, more likely to have sort of callous sexual attitudes. I can't remember the exact term they used for this construct, but basically they were more likely to agree with statements like sex is like a game where one person wins and the other person loses. So if you're using a dating app, you're more likely to say yes to that kind of question. So in a way,
well,
I think
there's
right,
a status element to that. I mean, there's the old trope of notches in the bed frame, and among competitive adolescent males, there's no reason. There's every reason to be competitive about how much you can drink and how many people you can lure into bed.
Okay, so this is the sexual conquest trope. Okay, this is the idea that guys have a big dick measuring contest. Like, we're all frat boys. It's beer and boobs. Masculinity is what it is. Go look that one up. I've got an essay I have an essay for that. It's beer and boobs masculinity. It's the idea that your sexual your status and your high valueness, however you want to measure that, is measured by notch count. And I've said the same thing on this show. It's like, guys who are sexually successful have a different attitude, have a different status. But the problem is it, so the question that they're not asking is it solely about a status contest, or is it simply because the guy wants to get laid? It seems like a good idea, man. That girl looks like a centerfold, man. I want to bang her. Is it just as simple as that? Or is it this, well, I'll think more highly of myself, and my friends will think more highly of me if I have 300 notches instead of just 7 or 8. Oh gosh, I feel so bad about myself. I really wish I had more self-esteem. I need to go get more notches on my bedpost. We've already just said a second ago here that about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. The 80%ers, those guys, the beta males, let's just say, for an abstract term, the beta males aren't worried about that. They're not. Most guys, I would say, even the guys who have very high notch counts, they have high notch counts because they like having sex. That's what they like to have. It's not a conquest. And what happens is when you have beta males who see guys who are having sex with a lot of women, they seem to think that the only thing that explains that is there has to be a character flaw in the guy who's having a lot of sex. I wouldn't want to have so much meaningless sex. He just does that to build up his ego. He has notch counts. It's conquest. And you will hear them repeat that over and over again. Whenever I hear the term sexual conquests, I think of 1975, 76, early 80s feminism, because that's where that language comes from. Remember when we were talking about that the feminist on the Dick Cavett show that was going head to head with Hugh Hefner? All of the language that was being thrown out in that conversation from 1970 is still with us today. Here's another example of that. Sexual conquest. We're still clinging to the idea that men have some sort of ego investment in how many chicks that they've banged. I've said this before. Like, I can remember when I revealed my own notch count. I think I was on Pat Campbell's show, and he's like, how many women have you had sex with? And I'm like, 41, 42, something like that. And suddenly I'm a man whore, right? Oh man, have you got yourself checked for venereal disease? Like, people were losing their minds on his show, which is seems to be very conservative and all that, right? For me, like, if I'm going into the manosphere, I'm talking to guys who are pickup artists. I'm talking to guys who are running game. I talk to, God forbid, I talk to, the people that I associate with, right? Those guys are in triple digits. I seem like I am like very low on the totem pole in that sense. So it's just really where that measurement is coming in. But I've never thought of it in terms of, well, I'm better than the guys who have, if I've got 41, then I must be better than the guys who have 39. Or, oh, I feel so out of it. I need to get my number. I gotta cheat on my wife so I can get my numbers up. That never even occurs to me. It never occurred to me when I was racking up those numbers. It was just like, that girl looks good and I want to get laid. It wasn't about conquest. It wasn't about ego appeasement or like building myself up or fluffing. All right, I'm going to fluff myself up because no, it's me. I had sex. I enjoyed it. I toweled off the junk and I went and got a big gulp at the 7-Eleven. That's pretty much what it comes down to. But when you are the guy who is in that 80%, you have to make up rationales for guys who are more sexually successful than you. So what's the easy way to do that? Well, gaslight those guys into thinking that there's something wrong with them. It's your those are sexual conquests. If you're not marrying her, you're not putting yourself into a position where you're going to get into a relationship later on, then no. As you know, I've talked about dating non-exclusively, you know, what my opinions are when it comes to plate spinning and stuff like that. But this is a really important part of this video here. And they're about to get to hypergamy here, but it's very important because that sexual conquest is literally out of the feminist handbook from the mid-70s or early 70s.